And Tanil, I'll let you take it away.
Did you have the opportunity to download the advisor tracker so that you can play along? Perfect. All right. I'm going to share if it'll let me. Okay, let's see. This one. Okay. So I've got your dashboard from the 11th, which was Sunday. It comes out twice a week on Mondays and on Thursday mornings, but what usually means they post the night before. And the advisor dashboard is specifically focused on those engagement pieces and getting our students more engaged so they can be more successful academically. So 2 big pieces that we like to start with when we look, especially with student engagement, are the DSPs, which means differentiated support path, and that might be something that you've heard before. It may not be something that you've ever heard. They have had many iterations of the differentiated support path over the years, but basically this measures how likely is this specific student to be enrolled at the end of the school year, so June 1st. So student with a red DSP, most likely not to be here at the end of the year. Green will be here most likely. When they did the data for it and looked at how effective this is over the last couple of years, about 80% of the time is correct. I always think that's only a B, but 80% is a really great thing when it comes to those indicators. So I'm excited about it. We've gone through all kinds of things, but the big data team, basically there's 2 forms of it. A new student that's never been there, for the first 28 days will get a DSP that it says DSP new if you're looking that up. And that means they're just taking basic demographics, like how many schools have they been at? What level of schooling did their parents have? Do they qualify for free and reduced lunch? Are they the same number of credits as their age? So if they're a freshman, are they at 0 credits? Are they a senior for the 5th year? Like, so basic demographics that we get from a student when they enroll, and they assign that DSP level. After 28 days, they become an in-year DSP indicator. So that's all of your returning students and anybody once they hit that 28-day mark. And now they add all of the other pieces that they've been collecting over the last 28 days. That is, how many times do they take each quiz? How much time do they spend on quizzes? How many times do they log in each day? Then how much time do they spend in each of the different courses? If they're going to Class Connect, how long they stay in Class Connect. So all of those pieces that can say, here's what they're doing when they're at school, that we can measure. So that's what is making up the DSP that you get in year. And in the past, they just changed that at the beginning of each semester. Now it can change weekly. They look at that and reevaluate it weekly, though it is a lot more static than the Go box, which we'll go over in a minute, in that they may be in that red DSP for 6-8 weeks as we're working to change those patterns into something more healthy and beneficial. But they will change throughout the year. My favorite thing is that last month of school, everybody's a green DSP. So it looks really great when people are like, look at all your greens. But at that point, your students are very likely to not withdraw in the last 3 to 4 weeks of school. So that's my favorite time, when I feel like everyone looks awesome. Now the other piece of it, let me show you DSPs though. On both those academic trackers that your teachers use a lot more than the advisors, and on this advisor dashboard, which advisors seem to spend more time in, this slicer is available. So you can go into the DSPs and then you can select, I only want to look at the students who are that red DSP, or I want to look at yellow. If it has no DSP, that student doesn't have enough, like if they're a new student, they don't have enough information yet for us to even give them a new student DSP. So those are not as common, but you will see that once in a while. So you can slice, like, let's pretend that we want to look at our students who are in that yellow category for their DSPs, because we know they're right on the bubble. It will take all of your students and it will reduce it to just those yellows. To note, the advisor dashboard has K through 12th grade, so it's got all of the grades in it. Typically, those academic dashboards are broken up by grade bands, but we're able to look at just the students who, I mean, in all grades here in this one, because we don't go into as much detail in areas as you do in the academic dashboard. So you can filter by those, and that's where from here we want to start looking at this GO box. GO means guided outreach, but because we don't have enough acronyms in education, we figured we would just add another one. But so this is the guided outreach box, or the GO box. And this measures two things. I'm going to pull this up here. This is looking at the number of days the student has logged in the last week. That's the last 7 calendar days. So it looks at weekends too. And then the percent of the courses that they're passing. If it is a student in K through 5, it's looking at the percent of courses that are 75% progress. So if I'm supposed to be at 10% by this time, I'm at least at 7.5%. So it's just looking at progress as opposed to your grades. And it breaks it down. You can see here's red, and then it's got this orange category, yellow, and green. Advisors typically spend a lot more of their time, especially, or mentors, I know you guys use mentors, spend a lot of their time here, at least starting in this orange category, because these are the students, at least right now, that are struggling to get to be passing courses. They are somewhat engaged. Like, we can see they're logging in. I don't know how much time they're spending when they're logging in. And I don't know if they're going to specific classes, but they're at least engaged enough to be logging in, some of them more than 5 days a week. But we're still not passing any classes. So we can see here there's 337 kids that are logging in every single day, but are passing just 1 to 49% of their classes. So that's a hard thing to see. Like, this kid is engaged. That's great. Now let's see if we can get them to the next point. These students over here in these red categories, typically they are your truancy folks are looking at them pretty closely. They've hit that radar. This box right here is an interesting one with only 4 in there, because this is showing that they didn't log in the last week, but they're passing more than half of their classes. So it's probably one that as an advisor, I might check into and say, I bet there's something going on. Maybe this last week they went to Disney World, or their cat passed away and they were at a funeral. I don't know. There's all kinds of reasons for this. So it might be one that I would always, as a mentor, just take a look at who those students are, because I bet there's more going on if they're doing well enough in their classes.
Tennille, can I ask a question?
Of course, please.
Is that number 4, does that mean 4 students or 4 courses?
4 students. So these numbers all represent students. These green ones, usually the teachers are working pretty closely with them when you guys are doing enduring connections. Anytime a template is noted, usually these families we're meeting with pretty regularly. They're also the families that might say, listen, Tennille, I know you're supposed to call me once a month. They might not say that, but could you leave us alone? Like, we're doing well. We'll reach out to you if we need help. If you see us starting to fail, reach out to us. And we need to respect that. Like, these families are doing great. And those are the kids that maybe once every quarter we talk to them. And then in the interim, we send them a, you're doing great email or something like that. Like, that's where these students fall into. If you see big dips in those or sudden changes, we're going to reach out, just because you guys know your students well enough to do that. So this is usually where we start. I find you've got 2 slicers here. And if we want to look at our advisors, they're all here under, these ones are your fast team. That's the one that you guys are going to fall under. And you can look specifically, say Taylor wanted just to look at the students that are assigned to her. You could click right on that. For homeroom teachers, these are going to be your advisors. I mean, your mentors. Is that correct? Does this look like your mentor names?
Yeah,
K5, we have actual homeroom teachers, so it depends on the grade.
Excellent. They're probably going to show up in here then too. And this is where, if we're going to pretend that we're Becky here, I will start by just looking at my own students. I want to come over here. I know in the last little bit here, formulas, that we've had a little bit of a lag on some of these, but because these should update with this. If I am Becky and I'm looking at my students who right now have, let's go remind us, a yellow DSP, I want to be able to see these students that are right here. Like right now in a yellow DSP, she doesn't have a whole lot. There's only 26 of them. But I want to look right here in this box because this one, she's passing and she's coming every day. Like these are successful kids. Like I'm feeling good about the students. These 4 right here might be where I want to start, or I might even start at they're logging every day and they're not passing anything, but there's 7 students here. If I come into my Go category and I only want to look at this one right here, I'm just going to have to count over. So this is box number 8 and it's orange. So I can click right here on orange 8. It'll slice right for that student. So it's going to get rid of all of the rest of them. Let's make sure it actually does. And then we can jump into the student data piece. These will change as so we've just got 4 of them, and of those 4 students, I can see that they are all over the place, like where they've been. This is the connection categories. It will track in here when the students had a connection with the school, and the enduring connection template was used. So that's what these are for. Then you can see most of the 4 of them 2 weeks ago, they were in this same, they've been logging in about 5 days now. All of them are there. This is the box that we're in. And then it'll also show right now, none of these students have responded to a pulse check or a student's first check-in, but I'll show you where you can look into that. So if we just start with the data of these 4 students, within this student data piece, we have all kinds of materials. You can see this is new this year, that it's now going to show us those pulse checks. A pulse check it goes out to your learning coaches. There's 7 of them a year, and it asks them questions like, how satisfied do you feel with schooling? If it's a family with more than 1 student, it's only going to be sent to the oldest student, to the learning coach that will fill it out. It's not every students don't fill this out, their learning coaches do. So this in the last week, Pulse Check 3 was sent out. And Pulse Check 3 is the first time that we ask the family, how do you feel, how successful do you feel your student is at the school? Pulse Check 1 and 2, they go out all year long as you continue to enroll students. So the first Pulse Check goes out a week before a student's first day. Pulse Check 2 comes 2 weeks after their first day. So it's before you do anything, how satisfied and prepared do you feel? After you've had your onboarding process, how prepared and satisfied? So these ones, Pulse Check 1 and 2, they happen all year round. So this will just give us, again, these are the general overviews. We can look and see Miss Dira here. And the very first Pulse Check, they were saying, no, we are not feeling satisfied. When it came to Pulse Check 2, either they were like, meh, we're fine, or they didn't fill it out. So it doesn't give us that detail here. This one I can see 2 in a row, Miss Pete here has said, we are not satisfied. What is going on? We're not happy about it, fix it. So this just gives you that trend. It helps you see overall, like, here's how the family is feeling Pulse Check wise. Then I'm going to come back over here. This is when we want to look at those Go indicators. I can see in here the trends that the student has over the last 8 weeks in both the DSP color and then their specific Go box. So looking at this, I can feel pretty good here that Mr. Dira or Miss Dira, they have gone from a red DSP, meaning they weren't logging in at all, or they still weren't passing anything, to this week. Now they're coming every day. They're still not passing yet, but I can see over the last 8 weeks, they're making some improvement. Same with these. This student right here, Mr. Carr, they've kind of been all over the place. They were in the red, then they jumped up into the yellow. They were doing a little better, and now they're back in orange. Like, they're kind of all over the place. So as a general trend, I can see these when I want to dig in a little deeper. I can see exactly where they were and how they were doing. For example, this one that's been all over the place, they weren't logging in, they weren't passing for the first 4 weeks. In the third week, they were passing more than half their classes and logging in every day. And now it looks like they're down to not passing half their classes yet. So it's an easy way to kind of get a feel for how that student is doing over the last 8 weeks, at least for that Go box. This one, these next two, are going to show you your passing rates and your engagement. So again, you can see here it correlates, not logging in at all, not logging in at all. Now they're almost all logging in every day. And at this point, everybody's at least coming and logging in 5 days a week. So we can see those logins. Now this student is an OLS student, so they're K-5. And I can see, again, over the last 8 weeks, this is the hot topic, and that wouldn't it be great if we could filter out those electives so that if it's showing me that we're passing half our classes and we're excited about it, but all their art and music, and that's the classes that we're passing. Gosh, wouldn't it be great to say, not that I don't care, but I really want to be more involved if I knew this student is passing their English class, but not doing at progress for all the rest of them. So it is something we're working on. It's one of those, could you please just tell us core courses? You get this a lot better if you look at the D2L, because it will filter out courses that don't have a grade. And so that's going to take and look at this differently. So these numbers often look different. Like you might say, I have 8 courses, but the courses with grades, I only have 6 or whatever it is. We haven't convinced them yet to filter those out. So I can see this students, none of them were enrolled 8 weeks ago, 2 months ago, which would be the beginning of August. None of these students were. But 6 weeks ago, these 2 were enrolled and doing so. 2 weeks ago, they're starting to make progress, at least a little bit. The student, it looks like, again, he's kind of up and down. And so now I can look at that there's 5 classes, and I am on track in 2 of those 5. That's 40%, right? If you're a math person and I do that wrong, I'm a social worker and I apologize in advance. So I can see that they're all of them passing 1 to 2 classes, or not passing, at progress in 1 to 2 classes. So I can quickly say, all right, where do I want to start? Do I want to say, let's start with this student who's only at one class that they're passing, or do I want to look a little more closely here and that they were doing okay and now they're moving back down again? Like, this is where do we want to dig in? What do we want to look at? What's more important? Do I want to look and see, I want to increase the number of classes that they're passing? Do I want to look and say, now this student, Miss Stira, only passing 1 course, but at least in the last week or so, somebody's talked to her. Maybe there's more going on. I can reach out to that person who's had the enduring connection. I can see what kind of responses they had in their pulse checks, because they started out not feeling very happy about this school at all. Do I want to look and see, did you just not start until the last 2 weeks? Because I can see you haven't logged in at all until now. Maybe that's why you're behind. But it gives us the really high level overview of where do we want to start, and then from there we can pare things down. I also know these students are on the bubble as far as whether or not they're gonna be here next year, which is, we picked that yellow category. So this gives us just a, let's see overall how these kids that I chose to work with. Most of our schools are saying, we sat down as a team and we set a goal right now because we want to increase student logins. And so we wanted to start by looking at students who are not logging in more than 2 days a week. And that's where we're going to start when we target our support. And that will change then where we want to look on here. Maybe if we want to look at students who aren't logging in more than 2 days, maybe we start with this box. If we want to look at students who are logging in 0 days, but they're passing so many of them. Let's look at these ones here. Like, this is where you as a school, I have given you guidelines to use when it comes to supporting those students, but as a school, you know what your school needs and you know where your school wants to focus on things. And so you have the autonomy to now go and say, I really want to just, we're going to focus just on this. And then you play with this and use the data how you would like when you're trying to support your students. So I know when I talked with Luann, she had some things that she's like, oh, I'm going to have questions about this then, or here's some things to point out. But I know I've now talked for at least 20 minutes straight. So I'm going to stop. I'm sure that, Perry, I'm sorry if you're like, I'm not even listening anymore because I don't understand half the things you said. It's okay. But I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to jump and say, okay, I don't know. Can you help me with this one or this one? So that's where I'm going to just pause for you. Luann, I'll give it to you. You're running this meeting, so.
Awesome. Questions? You guys have questions?
This was so helpful. I'm so glad it's recorded too, so I can go back and watch it in slow motion.
Break it into chunks. Nice. The difference here, than the D2L tracker or the OLS tracker, that academic one, is you just get the general. Like, I know he's passing one class, but I don't know which one. So I can jump right into the OLS and look that up that way. I can, if I don't even want to use this, which is fine, I'm not going to be offended, and I only want to look in the D2L tracker, I can get most of this information. It's just going to be at a more granular level. I can look it up, that one student, and then see, yep, they're only passing one class and it is music. Great. Like, you can use this that way. I just like this one because it gives me those trends all 8 weeks. I can see how they, and then jump in from there. But as folks who are on the ground, I have not been an advisor for 7 years. So I know that there are things going on that I've completely overlooked. So you can use this or you cannot, but there are some great trends that you can pull from here. All right, I'm going to stop sharing, Luann, and give it back to you.
Awesome. Is this, do you guys see use for, in a way to guide our mentors of who they can focus on? Yeah, that's kind of what I thought too, because especially when you have big caseloads, it's hard to be able to just know, this is who I'm going to focus on today or this week. Or any other ideas or questions for Tennille?
I just have a question, Luann. So when we pull that, we pull it from SharePoint, or where is that pulled from?
Yeah, so it's in the SLIM and it's in the Students First folder. And then from there, it's the advisor. Let's see, I'm just pulling that up.
It's not a SharePoint for our school, right? It's a K12 SharePoint.
Oh, okay, can you show me?
Yeah, let me show it to you.
If you haven't been given
access to that.
access before, you might have to be given access. I think John has to approve that.
So you go to the SLIM and then you go to the UTDA part-time, and then you go to the Students First. So you'll go, let me just show you the Students First folder here. So it's different from the academics where you get that D2L. And then I always do this and do the newer to older. So everything that's fresh pops up. And then it's right here. And then you can download it.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna make sure I have it, and if not, I'll email John. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question to Tanil. Is that okay?
Yes.
Tanil, so the the data for like the logged in days and stuff, it's only last 7 days, right? Or maybe like 30, but not for the whole school year, is there? And then you have to do like every single D2L or dashboard to see if it's for the whole year.
Yeah, this is only the Go box. It will show you the last 7 days unless you expand that section, and then it will show you the last 8 weeks.
But there's no such thing like a year to date kind of thing.
There is not.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I have a question. With this, Tanil, when you're having like a data dive with a parent, you know, and talking about the data, would this be something you'd be able to like screenshot and say, here's the trends I'm seeing. This is what I'm seeing with your student. I mean, would that be appropriate? Of course, FERPA, you know, just taking a
Right.
screenshot of your kiddo.
You sure? I know that for some parents, they'd be like, what are you talking about? I just want to see right now. But I absolutely, like for me, because my kids are all virtual right now. And I would much rather they say, okay, well, a month ago, Zarissa was passing all of her classes. Right now, she's not passing any of them. But, you know, so we see that this is happening, especially for a parent who's like, they log in every day. I know they are. To give them a little bit of an expanded view. Hey, 6 weeks ago, they were logging in every day. Then they started logging in just 3 or 4 days a week. Now they're not logging in at all. Like, I think that as a parent, it would be meaningful data to me. I don't know if that's with everyone, but it's nobody likes to say, well, your kid's not logging in. But to be able to say they're not logging in, but they were at one point, let's get them back there or whatever it is, I would share it.
I have another question. Is that okay? All right. So in Total View, when you send emails, there's a piping in there. And for some reason, it's not working. And then something's not populating. And I also was wondering, that would be helpful to have other piping options, like last day logged in, how many, the same stuff that's Total View action is available, like exact same. I'm not asking for more than that, at least that'd be so much helpful. So safe. So who do we talk to about that? And if it's not working, like who you would direct it to? Because I made an email to like students so it populates automatically, but it just comes up blank for some reason.
I would see local ops. They could submit a ServiceNow ticket. That's what I would recommend. And they'll escalate that to the right. Like in my mind, I would just call Mary Dangerfield and say, is this something that's going on? And she'd be like, I don't know. Let's talk to this person. But in specific schools, it may be a school only thing. Maybe it's not turned on there. Maybe it is a national blackout and nothing's working. But if you put in a ServiceNow ticket, they will at least be able to send you to exactly the right team. So your ops manager should be able to do that for you.
Operations manager does
Yes.
those ServiceNow tickets. Okay.
Yep, ServiceNow.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions?
No, Luann, I was just going to ask, will you send me a link to the recording when we're done so I can share it with our mentors?
You bet.
Thank
I
you.
will. And you.
Also, really quickly, the mentors, there is a PLC that happens on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of each month. That we would love to see your mentors there. If you go to K12training.com and type in professional learning community, it'll come up. There's one for your student resource coordinator or social worker role, for the engagement specialist role, for the student support admin, and for the advisor. It's right in K12 training, it's on Wednesdays. It would be 10 o'clock your time, because I'm in Central Region, it starts at 11, but it's every other week for those advisors. And we discuss everything from using the advisor dashboard to how do you create a good plan, where do you even get started, who do you talk to, and just giving them that community. So we'd love to have them there. It's my face again that they'll get to see and enjoy, but it's in K12 training. If you type out professional learning community instead of PLC, it should come right up. I'm done now. I won't, no more service announcements.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. Great. Well, Tanil, thank you so much. I just appreciate you so much. And every time I meet with Tanil, I learn something amazing. So I appreciate you coming in and giving us this training. And I'll get the recording sent out to everybody as soon as it'll be just a few minutes. So awesome.
Thank you all for letting me be here.
Thank
Again,
you.
apologies for being late.
No worries. We've all been there with our computer for sure. Awesome. Thanks, you guys.